Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's presentation. So today, my name is Alan Hardy. I am one of the technical consultants here at Actify. Kirsten will also be here to be able to facilitate any technical questions that you may have while I demonstrate the tools in our SpinFire Enterprise solution as well as our CAD Publisher. With SpinFire Enterprise, again, we've talked about how you can communicate that picture, that engineering data, regardless of what CAD file format that is. So I'll show you, I'll get into the tool, I'll show you some of the many features that we have with the SpinFire Enterprise, as well as our CAD Publisher, which is a tool that allows you to automate a batch process of converting data. So picture this. Maybe you're familiar with this scenario. You come to the office, in the morning, you see hundreds of CAD files waiting to be converted for you to convert to STEP or JT format. But you don't have time to waste to spend time translating that data. So what do you do now? Well, let me present my screen here. And I'll talk about the CAD Publisher tool that we have. So our CAD Publisher is an automated workflow that allows you, again, to translate data in a bulk automated process, whether that data is coming from SharePoint or PLM system, ERP system, or whether you have your users just dragging and dropping the files into a inbound source folder. Once that data gets placed into that inbound folder, CAD Publisher will then be triggered to run certain actions, run the process to, as you see here in the middle of this diagram, convert to JT or STEP or STL or many other formats, convert that CAD data directly to a SpinFire file, or images, or extract that metadata or run processes. And once that data gets translated, gets placed into an outbound folder where your users will then be able to access that data. And let me pull up what the CAD Publisher would look like. So here's our interface for CAD Publisher. Now this tool is really meant for the administrator to set up that workflow, to define where that inbound folder location is at, whether that's on your local drive or that's set to a UNC path on the network, and then a set of actions to process, and then puts it into an outbound folder location. Now, each item on the left-hand side here are your different pipelines. Everything that you see with the white icon, those are offline. Anything that's green, those are currently on. So if it's picture like a printer, you have a printer that's on. You print something, it goes into a queue. So all these jobs on the right will be listed as they're allocated, they're queued up to be printed. And when you have them running, so there's a difference where this green gear is spinning. So that means that this pipeline, this workflow is constantly watching that inbound folder for files coming in. And then once it sees that data come in, it'll run the process, and you'll see that the recent events listed here, and you see 464 jobs. So that's 464 files that had been processed with this workflow. And I see in the live activity, there's really no activities going on. So I know that everything's been finished, and everything should be all set and ready to go for your users to be able to work with that file in the outbound folder. So if I edit one of these pipelines, I'm going to show you what a pipeline would look like. You have two areas here. There's your trigger and then your actions. Your trigger is going to be where you define the inbound folder location, whether that's a local drive or UNC path, and you can define what CAD formats you want to this pipeline to look for. So I can say I don't want to look for any step files. Maybe I just want to look for specifically the STP files and not worry about the step zip folders. So I can choose to enable specific file formats to look for, and then I can put a time constraint or a polling interval on that. And then for this example, we have two different actions here. One, the first action here is CAD to SpinFire. So this action creates that SpinFire file from the native CAD file. And then this action here, the CAD to CAD, is what it is will translate that CAD data to any of the, we can translate to PDF, HCF, HSF, PRC, JT. So you see here I have JT enabled. I also have step files enabled. I can add additional actions to this pipeline, such as moving and copying files, creating images, running processes, and what have you. Now, once that data is finished and goes into an outbound folder location, you then have your end users ready to work on that data in SpinFire. With SpinFire, so here we have a few options on the left-hand side here. There's a library option. This area here allows you to bookmark specific locations, whether that's on your local drive or on the network, to just give you quick, easy access to navigate to files rather than digging through your folders through your file explorer. And now these files here, this is the outbound CAD Publisher location that I had set. I had add the connection in my SpinFire application to then be able to navigate. Here's my JT files that I converted with 5 different assemblies here. Then there's your SpinFire files and your step files. Now with any of these files, I can navigate, I can search for the specific file that I'm looking for. Then I can just right click and I can open that file directly into SpinFire Ultimate. We talked about how we can communicate that picture, that engineering data, regardless of the CAD file formats. And we've mentioned we can support AutoCAD, we can support CATIA, IGES, JT, PRC, STEP, NX. And you see with 11.8.2, you see the files that it keeps up with. So every, we'll come out with a new version of SpinFire multiple times throughout the year to keep up with new supported versions of each one of these CAD applications. And you can go into these additional options here per format, and you can actually control what type of data you want to bring to SpinFire. So let's say you have some CATIA models that have weld information in there. So that is most likely going to be represented by wireframe. So you'll want to enable wireframe. You have GD&T dimensions that were already populated in that CAD data. So you want to enable PMI, that's product manufacturing information. And here's your workspace now. We have, and most of you are probably already familiar with CAD, and you're a CAD user. You know how to navigate, spin the model around with my left mouse button, click. And then you have your assembly tree with the full assembly. If I jump over to my package tray here, you saw this Sean showed earlier. So you have the full assembly with all the brackets and all the nuts. And if I click on the individual parts, you see that those parts are selected in the tree and the 3D area. If I right click on that 3D model, you see a set of menus that you can choose to hide and maybe show only. I can, if I'm spinning this model around and it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, I can just right click on that and say focus, and then that brings it into the center of rotation. Uncheck and check these parts in the tree. That'll quickly hide and show those models And right-click on the tray, you get that same set of menu items to be able to modify the colors, to move individual parts around. I can calculate based on volume, surface area, weight. Maybe I want to calculate the minimum bounding box or the axis aligned bounding box, depending on where that might be positioned on a tool. Now, if I right-click in the 3D area, I get just all of your basic navigation tools. So depending on where I select in my workspace, will give me a different set of menu items or tools that I can use. In this example, we have some preset views that I had created. So let's say you want to calculate a weight. So here we calculated this weight of this entire assembly, and it's based out of a aluminum material, so it's 4.21 pounds. And I want to then communicate this back to a colleague. I can simply go to File, Email, and that will open up an email template with then the file saved as an Act3D file as an attachment to that email. Additionally, I can export images from this workspace, or I can export the different CAD file formats here. I can even convert CAD files without opening CAD data. I can just go to convert, select the file from the File Explorer, and then choose maybe 4 or 5 different formats I want to convert to. I can also export a parts list. The parts list, allows me to export this spreadsheet with the entire parts list, or BOM with the quantity. I can include physical properties. I can include attribute information into that spreadsheet as well. And then we have, you have your model tree assembly here with that checklist that you've seen in the presentation earlier this morning. You have your markups tab. So any markups that I've done with like this weight calculation, for example, is going to be displayed under here, along with any measurements that you might do under your markups tab. Then you might have some PMI data that comes in from the native CAD file. So if I tick that on and off, you can see all of that PMI information that came in from that native CAD. I can do additional calculations, such as a projected area. So for get that projected area, you enable your CAD, your section cut, and with that plane that you see here with the section cut, if I right click, I see another set of tools that I can use to enable my projection mode and calculate the area. I could also create a 2D document based off of this profile cut. I can export it to a DXF file. I can create a profile of that section cut. Additional tools that we have with SpinFire is we have all these measurement tools. Whether you want to do edge-to-edge or point-to-point type measurements. We also have a set of minimum distances and boundary calculations that you can do. There's arc measurements, there's angle measurements, and then we have the smart edge dimension, where instead of trying to spend the time looking for the specific measurement type that you're trying to get to, you can just use the smart edge, and as you hover over specific areas of that model, it will recognize whether you're hovering over a surface or a straight edge or a curve, and it'll give you a set of measurement types based on what you're hovering over. I can also control the units degree. I can control my weight units. I can also control that material. So you saw earlier with that calculation with the aluminum package tray, you can set that material type to calculate that weight based on a specific material. Additionally, we have, maybe you want to do an exploded view of this full assembly, or maybe you want to just kind of see or kind of scale it down to a smaller area of that model and just focus on this pin. Maybe see an exploded view of that pin, so I can create these different views and just kind of focus them on these individual views. Make this, maybe I want to make this my startup view and send this off to a colleague, and they open up this file and they see this picture right away rather than the full assembly. In this example, we see the full tool display here, as well as that fixture. So the main part is this frame here, and so you can maybe you have your tool in one file and the product in another file. And so you can open up the tool in SpinFire, and then you can import that product and then place it onto that tool fixture. So again, I mentioned doing some markup, so I could scale this down and so show only this one part, and then add measurements to create this view, so I can share this view or this screenshot with other people that highlight specific measurements. Or maybe I want to do a model compare. So here we have, with this this main part, you have the left-hand bracket and the right-hand bracket. So I could reposition those parts on top of each other to overlay them, and I can then compare. So here we have a set of tools to do analysis. Use your model compare, your draft angle, wall thickness, curvature. We can do row-based coloring. Additionally, we have, maybe you want to, for marketing purposes, you want to adjust your render style so that it looks more marketable for what you're trying to show or create brochures from using your CAD data. So here we're modifying the render style, maybe giving it some simple reflection or shadow in the model, to get this nice little reflection on the bottom floor of this rim. Additionally, maybe you want to do analysis based on draft analysis or wall thickness analysis, just to be able to comprehend all the, how deep you can get with the analysis here. Here's a curvature analysis of this rim. And here's your wall thickness based on, I think, so wall thickness, we had minimum 0.05, and I think it was actually maximum value of 200 to get this wall thickness analysis. You can set up your SpinFire file to have additional 2D notes as well. And when I share this file with a colleague or send it across to another part of your company across the globe, they, instead of having them go through the different menu items here and looking for the different views, you can highlight specific views where they can just quickly navigate, click on these individual views, see curvature analysis or wall thickness analysis of this this part here. Maybe you want to do measurements of this part here, where you're marking out check critical diameter here. We can also include 2D spaces in this document. So here we have, in my SpinFire Ultimate session, I actually have 5 workspaces loaded. And with this engine assembly, there's a 3D workspace and a 2D workspace. And I can toggle back and forth just by clicking on those tabs up here. I can switch. So we've created this, it's going to be a 2D note with a hyperlink, where I can toggle back and forth between the 2 different documents. Another example with the 2D document here is this rim. Maybe you have a 2D document or additional documents you want to embed into this SpinFire file. So you can add multiple 3D documents or tabs or 2D documents in one workspace. So here's a 2D drawing of this rim that we can kind of go back and forth. And I can even do measurements within my 2D document as well. Additional, we can also, maybe you want to select or highlight multiple parts that have the same type of attribute information, or in this case, maybe there's a few parts in this miter saw that has the material that's made of steel. So I created this view that highlights everything in green that has that steel product and that attribute. Or in this view, there's every material that is 1060 alloy. To finish off what we've talked about today, we talked about being able to communicate that CAD data or that picture, regardless of what CAD file format that is. Be able to collaborate your designs with measurements and markups using our SpinFire Enterprise solution, and be able to comprehend how you can extract the specific a BOM or a parts list, as well as being able to do additional types of analysis with our tools. And again, as Sean Bryant mentioned earlier, a picture paints 1,000 words.